listening to the Leadership Lounge podcast presented by the Florida Association of School Administrators. Today's podcast was hosted by Michelle White and Jessica Janasiewicz. The podcast was produced by Jeff Willoughby. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
The policies shaping
New
the work
episodes are
of Florida
released each
school
Monday.
leaders.
For show
I'm Michelle
topics,
White, Executive
suggestions,
Director of the
questions, or
Florida
comments,
Association of
please
School
email
Administrators.
communications@facet.net.
And I'm Jessica
We hope you
Janasiewicz,
enjoyed the show.
lobbyist for FAFSA and for several school districts across the state of Florida.
Well, Jess, special session number 1 of 2026 is in the books. And swiftly moving, a 1.5-day session highlighted topics that only a few people really thought were necessary, and the legislature may have agreed with those people.
Right. And when you said a special session number 1 out of, and I thought you might say 1,000, because it's looking like we're going to have quite a few this year. But that's right. This first one focused on congressional redistricting. There also was a proposed AI Bill of Rights that was actually identical to the one that we had seen during the regular session that didn't pass, and a bill that looked at school vaccine exemptions, also identical to the one that had passed during the legislative session, passed out of the Senate, I should say, but did not go anywhere in the House. Much the same with this special session. No members of the House filed bills on the AI issue or vaccines. And the House Speaker said at the very beginning of this special session that they would not be taking up these issues.
That's right. And on the Senate side, the AI Bill of Rights was passed, and the vaccine exemption bill was temporarily postponed in the Rules Committee. So remember, since the House decided not to do anything with these topics, it really didn't matter what the Senate did because the bills weren't going anywhere this special session.
That's right. So now on to what did pass. Well, the budget. Of course, let's not be silly.
Not yet.
Not during this one, not yet. But the legislature did pass a new congressional map that was proposed by the governor. It was passed through the House pretty quickly, but it did need a little more pushback in the Senate. It was debated for about 2 hours before they actually had what, certainly in recent history is a very close vote, 21-17, for approving the new maps. 4 Republicans and the 1 no party affiliation member joined the Democrats to vote against the bill. But of course, obviously it did pass, but it was a pretty narrow margin.
Yeah. So kind of what's next for this bill as we move forward is we expect the court system potentially to be the next stop. We've had several Democratic leaders say that they are ready to file lawsuits and challenge the legality of the bill, including potentially that it violates the state's Fair Districts Amendment. So in a nutshell, that Fair Districts Amendment is designed to stop elected officials from manipulating voter maps to keep themselves and their party in power.
It seems like this is just the year where the fireworks are just going to continue to keep going as we move throughout the year. The next big question that we have all, of course, been thinking about since the end of the regular session is what is happening with the budget? Well, the next special session is now officially been announced, and it will be the one that works on the state budget. Legislators are scheduled to convene on May 12th through the 29th to finalize the budget. So the idea is during that first week, they'll have the typical kind of silo meetings where you have like education builds their budget, transportation, healthcare, et cetera. And they'll do that the first week. Then the things will bump up to the big chairs after that. And that remainder, that last week will be when that process happens. Leadership has been working behind the scenes, even though the two sides still have some differences to be sure, but they did decide on the allocations, which are those top line big numbers. So we at least know what that number will be. And then they'll start working out the nitty gritty of everything and how they spend those dollars. I'm sure we'll have lots of updates coming as we get closer and closer to this. So we'll keep you posted for sure on their progress.
Absolutely. So on kind of shifting gears here, an interesting study about polling and the voters' thinking came out recently, and there's a reason a lot of Florida's politicians tense up when a conversation starts with, quote, a new poll shows, and that is that most polls that are circulated are rushed. Sometimes they're poorly weighted or designed to tell a specific story. But every once in a while, a serious one comes along that's worth paying attention to. And that's one that we want to kind of highlight here. It just came out this year, spring of 2026, a survey from Stetson University's Center for Public Opinion Research.
This poll surveyed nearly 850 Floridians statewide and used a sophisticated likely voter model based on actual voting behavior, not just whether someone says they plan to vote, which of course those are very different things. That alone puts it a cut above many campaign type polls. There are also still a few things to keep in mind. It was an online panel. The survey was conducted over several weeks, so the numbers aren't exactly crystal clear, but the big picture is Florida still leans Republican. Party loyalty remains strong in the state, and that has not changed. What is interesting is there is a persistent gender gap with female voters far more divided, especially those in suburban areas. And it and there's widespread concern for the cost of living. So the takeaway is this: Florida certainly leans red, but heading into 2026, it is far from a done deal in any kind of way. We have these different groups that seem to be shifting perhaps in their feelings. And of course, we know there's a lot of time between now and November.
That's right. And on top of that, let's talk about some special elections. So we've had a number of special elections take place recently. We also talked about uh, potential special elections in a congressional race last week on the podcast. Um, but have we ever thought about like really the special elections and how they happen and how they're scheduled? And so a little bit of details here. First, a special election can happen for variety of reasons, whether someone gets appointed to a new position, like we saw with now Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins and his seat coming open, maybe a resignation, or unfortunately, sometimes someone passes away while they're in office. And when something like that happens, a legislative seat opens and then a special election will be called to fill the seat.
That's right. And in Florida, we don't have a specific timeline that the governor has to set a special session by. So, for example, this year, it was over 50 days for 3 of the 4 special sessions to be scheduled after the vacancy occurred. A couple bills were actually filed during the regular session that would have required that the governor call a special session within 2 weeks of an official vacancy, but those bills did not make it through the process this year.
That's right. And so they could have really changed some of these election conversations and like having Congresswoman Sherfilis McCormick that resigned last week and figuring out what does that look like for her seat now. But also this last week, we want to now share some exciting news. As the association that supports leaders at every level, we were also excited to see that Education Commissioner Kamutsis announced the 2026 Florida Principal, Assistant Principal, and School-Related Employee of the Year. So big congratulations to Brooke Lloyd from Petronas Elementary School in Bay County for being named Principal of the Year.
Also, big congratulations go out to the AP of the Year, Rashonda Scott from East Ridge High School in Lake County. And the School-Related Employee of the Year is Chris Hadaway, a school resource officer at Rockledge High School in Brevard County. Congratulations once again to everyone.
Yeah, we are so excited when we get to celebrate leaders at every level. And anyway, just looking forward to celebrating them also at Discover this year. One more thing, last week, there was a heated debate at the Miami-Dade School Board meeting when the board approved new charter school expansion. So Success Academy, originally from New York State, is expanding into South Florida through the Schools of Hope program, which we've talked quite a bit about over the last year.
So it looks as though this is going to be the first such concept that we've seen using the language that was included in session in 2025, which will allow charter schools to open in currently operating schools. So in Miami-Dade, this means they will be operating in high schools that have their own, but they'll have their own area to do their school business. The program will begin with 5 public high schools in Miami-Dade. And then Success Academy hopes to open its own buildings and welcome kindergartners and first graders in for the 27-28 school year.
That's right. On a separate note, the FEA, so Florida Education Association, Florida's largest teachers union, representing more than 120,000 members, sent out a news release citing the latest study by the National Education Association, showing that Florida teachers are among the lowest paid in the country. And the numbers are interesting. Average teacher pay went up to about $56,000 last school year. But when you factor in inflation, salaries actually have dropped more than 12% over the last decade.
And our ranking with regard to salaries has dropped too, from 47th to almost last. And it's not just teachers. Support staff earned an average of about $34,000 a year, which is below what's considered a living wage for families in Florida. And that's why many educators say pay is becoming a real challenge for schools statewide. Part of the current budget proposal includes almost $1.5 billion for the teacher salary allocation, which has been the mechanism that the legislature has used to boost teacher pay in the last couple of years. But of course, that dollar amount includes monies from previous years' increases, because of course, once you increase someone's salary, you have to continue to pay that salary year to year. So the actual increase is not over $1 billion, though it does include a modest increase. Of course, anything can happen once they start actually negotiating the budget. So we shall see what happens as we enter budget conferencing in a little over a week.
Absolutely. And we know that these are also really challenging times and conversations that districts are having at the local level about staffing and salary negotiations with local teachers unions, and just trying to make sure that ultimately they're keeping people in mind when they go into those negotiations. And we know that that's what's at their heart, but also just that there's a lot of budget constraints happening right now too, and trying to accomplish keeping and retaining these amazing teachers and staff within our schools is so important. So we want to close out with something positive and something new to share. Students in the Diversified Career Technology program at Gulf Breeze High School just hit a major milestone. They have completed the Florida Ready to Work program, earning nationally recognized credentials that employers and colleges value. Through hands-on training in communication, teamwork, problem solving, and workplace technology, these students are preparing for real-world success.
Combined with the on-the-job training where they earn credit and a paycheck, Gulf Breeze High School is giving students a powerful head start on life beyond high school. If you're looking for information about the Florida Ready to Work program, there'll be a link to their website in the podcast description.
That is great. We love when we're doing innovative things for students and preparing them for beyond our schools. That is all that we have for this week. A quick reminder to everyone, FASA's Discover 26 conference is in 4 short weeks, and we know things are crazy at the school level and the district level trying to close out the school year. Do not miss your opportunity, because registrations, of course, are filling up quickly. Hotel rooms, I think we're almost sold out, so more information to be included in the links. Check the FASA website, but please make plans to attend this amazing event. We'll have 2 great keynotes, Eric Scheninger and John C. Maxwell, official leadership keynote of every industry pretty much. And of course, you can find registration information and everything in the podcast description. We want to thank you all so much for listening and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lounge podcast presented by the Florida Association of School Administrators. Today's podcast was hosted by Michelle White and Jessica Janasiewicz. The podcast was produced by Jeff Willoughby. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. New episodes are released each Monday. For show topics, suggestions, questions, or comments, please email communications@fasa.net. We hope you enjoyed the show.